The following program is brought to you by the University of Alabama.
Allan Gurganus broke onto the American literary scene with a giant novel, Oldest Living Confederate Widow Tells All. Lately, however, he has become enamored of the novella, fiction not too long and not too short, but just right. His newest collection of 3 novellas, Local Souls, set in his fictional Falls, North Carolina, brilliantly explores a variety of relationships, some intimate, mother-daughter, mother-son, doctor-patient, and others less so, such as how we are perceived by the fellow citizens of our town. Nothing is quite what it appears to be, how little we really know about others, and sometimes ourselves. I spoke with Allan Gurganus at the Alabama Booksmith in Homewood, Alabama. Allan, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Don. It's great to be with you.
I know this is not something that you would be expected to remember, but I think about 15 years ago, you gave a talk at the Fitzgerald Society meeting with the Thomas Wolfe Society in Asheville. You gave this wonderful talk, and afterwards I ran up eagerly and I said, I have a television show in Alabama. Will you be on my show? And you said yes.
You see, I keep my word.
Now all this time has passed. 4 more books since then. You're part of the Hillsborough gang, and I'm making a complete collection.
Great. There's a lot of talented, beautiful people there.
Why is that? Why do you all live there?
We can't afford to live in Chapel Hill, and it's really an 18th century town, 1757, and the houses are wonderful, magnificent places, and it's a farm village. Really, it happens to be the county seat, so we have a lot of jurors eating in the local restaurants at a given noon. But it's a magical, sort of silent, quiet little town that lets people alone and has a tradition of eccentricity, which we all need a great deal. And it's thrilling to, I share a tree surgeon with Lee Smith and Jill McCorkle and Michael Malone. And we're living our lives and making our books and celebrating each other.
If you're not careful, and you are collectively not being careful, because you are all out and around the country calling attention to Hillsborough. Pretty soon you're going to be swamped.
Exactly.
Most recently in the Oxford American, and
I asked not to have the town identified.
So it doesn't say Hillsborough,
it does not
it?
say Hillsborough. See,
I knew it. I thought it was
you've
there.
You've got all the information, sir, so you're providing that. But I specifically said that because here I am talking about it on your show. But because I live next door to the Old Town Cemetery, and I refer to that in my work, and the piece in the Oxford American, which is very beautiful, I think, William Giraldi's piece, refers to that. It's easy for lunatics to find me. I've had a few visitors that I would have preferred not to have had. A man with a loaded Civil War musket turned up at my house of a Sunday afternoon in the summer when I had the screen door not quite latched. And it turned out that the elderly couple across the street, he'd pounded on their door, and they said, "Oh yeah, you got a real gun, don't you? He lived right over there. Go on in. He'll love to see." And this crazy man came in, with a gun, and he kept saying, "This is loaded. This is loaded." And there was a line that I didn't like in Oldest Living Confederate Widow, and you got to take it back.
Are you going to do that?
Said, "Yes, sir, I will take it back," whatever the line is. But I'm writing a new book, and I hope you'll like it better than you liked my last book, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave because I haven't invited you here. So I'm being, I don't want him to come back, Don. Let's put it that way.
That article in Oxford American, I don't remember
seeing. First of all, I don't remember reading an article of that kind at that length for a long time about anybody. And the other thing is that man, the writer, he was with you for 3 days.
That's right.
I can't be wrong about this. That's unusual, right? For a
unusual,
3-day interview, it's Gay Talese territory.
My feeling is if somebody's going to fly from Boston to do a piece on me, I want him to see where I live. I want him to know my town because, as you know from the current book, the sense of a life of a village is extraordinarily important to me. So to know me in a Motel 6 in whatever way is not the same as seeing me in situation. So I figured, what's the point of taking him to the Holiday Inn and then picking him up in the morning? I have a guest room, I have a guest bathroom, so he stayed. It was great because we got to know each other in a very different way. I'd never met him before, but we'd corresponded.
You met him at the airport.
That's right. Exactly.
What did that sign say? I forgot.
It said, "Welcome, South Billy." He didn't know from the South. You could tell when he went into the guest room, and I heard a tussling in the guest room, the likes of which I thought, my God, it's either a squirrel or a woodchuck is in there. He was knocking things over. I said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "There's an ant in my bed, an ant." And my household, everybody has ants in the South, let's face it. Aunts and ants. Mine are the tiny ones that look like one piece of pepper. So I had to completely dismantle his bed, take sprays, do everything but, elevate it on water to protect him. So then he was fine. But we certainly got to know each other faster than that way. And I think the piece he's a wonderful writer, and it's very moving to see your work examined with such love and care.
I'll tell you the impression I got from it, besides being very thoughtful and very thorough, I also got are there chunks of it that are more or less written? It seems to be not entirely oral, in chunks he gave you.
Yeah, he interviewed me and we talked back and forth,
yes.
and then that was carded over. So it wasn't a verbatim interview,
right,
the way this will come across.
Some of it looks kind of like email.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Written, yeah.
Once he had perfected the essential material.
Rocky Mount is your real home place.
That's right.
But your fictional home place, your Yoknapatawpha, nobody minds that reference, I know.
No, not a bit. Just keep it coming.
Your Yoknapatawpha is Falls, North Carolina. That's Rocky Mount, not Hillsborough. Is that about right?
Well, it's a combination, and it's a combination of every French village I've read about, every town in every movie I've ever seen. There's no real one-to-one concomitant.
No.
And the fact is that I'm still accepted in Rocky Mount. Believe it or not, there's a larger-than-life-size portrait of me in the library where I read my first books. I mean, this is embarrassing to anybody but people from the South who know how much that would mean to a person. So I can go home again and do frequently. I think, Woolf said that when he was a young, angry young man. He never stopped being an angry young man. He died at 38. But I'm now 66, so I have a little distance. And it's a beautiful age for reconsidering where you came from, and a beautiful age for gratitude. Because I don't know when the real old folks' ailments start, but they haven't caught up with me yet.
Be patient.
But I'm sure they'll come. But now I'm grateful and very happy to have been from such a community.
The Oxford American article and other places suggest a strong connection between the tombstones in your backyard graveyard and characters, and I wonder, what about that? I mean, obviously they're just names and dates, but are they actually as provocative as people make them to be?
They have a real compelling force for me. I grew up, Don, inside of a cemetery. My boyhood bedroom looked out onto a cemetery. And for us, it was like a beautiful park that had a little too many white monuments in it. You know what I mean?
If you play softball, you could trip over them.
Exactly. It was chaperone free. We did all our making out and necking, you know, curled up against graves. There was a mausoleum that had been broken open. There was a bike chain on it, which was now sprung, which made a perfect place to hang out on a rainy day and smoke cigarettes and do various things that teenagers do. And I always felt that the dead were welcoming us. I have seen ghosts in my life, but I've never seen a ghost in a cemetery. Ghosts are people who have died who don't know they're dead yet. And by the time you embalm somebody and write their name on the grave and holler over them and all that stuff, they pretty much got the idea. They're at peace. So I don't know if you've spent time wandering cemeteries the way I have.
Not as much, surely.
But I always find in a new cemetery, new to me, that a certain couple of stones call out to me. They're often people who died young, a woman, 19th century woman in her first childbirth, or a sailor in the China trade who was drowned and washed overboard and recovered and brought home in a barrel of brandy, or you know that.
Yeah.
And there's almost like they want a sponsorship, or they're offering you sponsorship.
Right. This volume of 3 novellas, people who are looking at your career, you started off with a giant novel, 750 or something pages, oldest living Confederate widow tells all. Then you went to a pretty big novel that plays well with others. Then stories and novellas, and there's obviously, in terms of form, there's something about the novella. References to Henry James won't offend you either, I don't think.
No.
But the blessed novella is your natural form. You find it the length that your stories want to be. Why is that?
It's slightly mysterious. I think I can control that about as much as I can control my fingerprints, you know. I think that it's partly because I like stories with a beginning and a middle and an end. Peter Taylor, another a real master of the form, says the novella is the perfect instrument for the way we live now. You can pick it up after dinner and finish it by bedtime.
Yes.
60 to 80 pages, sometimes 100 or 2, you know.
Right.
But the fact is that it's streamlined because the secondary characters are left out, and a lot of the secondary characters bring in kind of servant comedy in the 19th century fiction, which I don't think people are funny because they're servants. So I'm perfectly happy to sacrifice that kind of support.
They're almost novels.
They're close to novels, and they're have become increasingly plotted, and with people, as in Thomas Hardy or you know Dickens, appearing and disappearing. But I'm very interested in obsession. I'm very interested in people who love another person too much, or a parent who is extraordinarily protective of her child, which is sometimes a harbinger of a disappearance of the child. I think if we reify, if we worship another person or an idea too completely, that we set ourselves up in a very risky circumstance. And of course, all fiction in a way is about loss. It's about making our peace with time that is rushing us to always an untimely end, no matter if we live 110 years. So I find the form is extremely pleasing to me, and it coincides with how I see life itself.
Yeah, it's very Edgar Allan Poe then in that way, that you can read it presumably at an uninterrupted sitting.
That's
and the
right.
full effect is got.
Exactly.
You're not interrupted by sleeping or going out to dinner or what have you.
No, and the simplification of having a single strong person in the lead means that you can identify with that person, and that the velocity carries you quickly through to the end.
Right. In the first of the 3 novellas, Fear Not, you have a situation in which you begin, well, first of all, you begin by putting yourself in the story more than you ever normally do. The writer who has just mailed off his Civil War novel to his publisher. Well, you know, that's fun for your readers.
Yeah.
They know who that is. But then you have this catastrophe at the lake, and it's on page 7 or something. So there's nothing's given away here. A man is killed by a motorboat, and things start to fall apart. I don't know if exactly what you would call it child molesting exactly, but the man who's driving the boat becomes sexually involved with the daughter of the man he accidentally killed, and it's just impregnates her. It's a disaster. And then you not only take your characters and torment them, and then you have to bring them back from
absolutely,
from where you sent them.
Yeah. I was fascinated with first impressions are extraordinarily important to me, and I, like everybody, I think I have a very good sense of judgment about when I meet people. I either, as an animal meeting another animal, I either really like them, or I sometimes go, there's something's going on there that they don't have a sense of humor, or there's some agenda that is scaring me a bit. And I was very interested in a writer's take on strangers, a writer who's just finished a major project and has time and energy to devote to another story, and suddenly sees these people at a high school play and feels that they have the capacity to fascinate and engage him. And then he begins to find out facts about them that are so peculiar that it drives him to become a kind of detective. I mean, in a way, it is a detective story. I'm fascinated with Jim Thompson and Raymond Chandler and some of the great American noir film writers.
That writer, a surrogate for Garganus, becomes fascinated by the living unknown people in a way parallel, it seems to me, as you become fascinated with what would have been the stories of the dead in the cemetery.
That's right, exactly.
What are they up to?
It's always nice to have this margin that lets you invent. I mean, I think that's the fascination for me, is not to be presented with a bill of goods that comes ready, bought and sold, but to engage the reader in the act of imagination, and to help the reader assemble a life, in this case, these two lives that come together in an unexpected way. And I think the reader is a very willing participant, and it's like either Dr. Watson to my Holmes, or Sherlock Holmes to my Dr. Watson bumbling after.
Do you think of yourself as a writer that is demanding of readers, that you need a pretty good reader?
Some people tell me that the work is dense. I don't know quite what that means. It's sort of like saying that my mincemeat pie is dense. I think they're supposed to be dense. There's never a sentence that hasn't been rewritten 150 times.
Right.
And there's never a movement in the fiction that's not richly considered, and not just considered for its interestingness or its difficulty, but with the reader in mind. I would like to think that I'm a good host to my readers.
But you need a patient reader, and I think you need a fairly bright reader. I do.
Yeah.
If your narrative form is 90 pages, 110 pages, novella length, I think that the other place that people notice, the other thing structurally that people notice, is that your unit is the sentence. Your sentences are loaded,
right,
one at a time. So one does not race pell-mell. One reads a sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is entirely purposeful. You have
exactly.
laden these sentences.
That's right. Well,
over
this is
rewritings.
Maybe, Don, this is one reason it takes me a while to get these things out. I have a gestation period of an elephant or something, but when it comes out, it's got hooves and horns and.
Well, it's finished.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, the second novella of the three, is it Even Saints Have Mothers?
Saints Have Mothers. That's
Saints
right.
Have Mothers. There's a nice woman, and she has this extraordinary daughter, Caitlin, who is by every objective measure, a charming, beautiful, liberal, generous child, and I came to hate her. And you did it. You made her so virtuous, so generous that I came to loathe her. You did it on purpose. Why did you do that?
I did it on purpose. I think that we look back at your high school class, and the people who are considered saints and winners in high school are often peaking very, very early. I was very interested in Caitlin's mother, who had, as a single divorced mom with Caitlin and 10-year-old boys, had devoted her entire existence, the way single parents do, to creating dimensional, beautiful, powerful, empathetic children. And she did that. She created one. But in some strange way, she overdid it. And her own ambition, which was thwarted when she, having published a poem in the Atlantic when she was 19, then got pregnant and got married and had these kids. She is sort of farmed this out to her daughter, and her daughter makes her a bit sorry at times that ambition can be so unremitting, even ambition toward being humane.
The daughter, I don't have a shoe fetish. I assure you, but the daughter gives her mother's shoes to the poor. All of them. Her mother goes to the closet and there are no shoes. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not
Well,
virtue. This is
everything in the house that's not tied down that has some value goes to the Salvation Army, to the poor. And the mother is both horrified by this and amused by it. I think this is the way we feel about our children. Their eccentricities, their beauties, they're all the same thing. But the movement of the story is the real test of the love of the mother for the daughter. When the daughter goes to Africa on a summer abroad program as a high school junior and disappears, and then suddenly everything shifts.
Right. Yeah, the mother grieves. In fact, even makes a kind of art form almost, a creative, her grieving becomes a kind of creative act, which is pretty interesting. The third novella, Decoy. I'll make you an existential proposition.
Great, I'm ready.
Nothing's real. The people in town are pretending to be town people, they're really country people. The decoy itself is an imitation duck. The people's sexuality, in fact, may not be real. Well, it's real enough, but it may
Right.
not be what they think it is.
That's right.
Do you have some really basic doubts about the about the authenticity of the human personality or character?
I grew up in a town where appearance was everything, and I think a lot of us remember, as long as nobody pulls each other's hair at a party or admits to adultery with the wife of the best friend, everything can go on for years and years and years and years. And I was very interested in the paragon, the sort of central figure in this particular community, named Doc Roper,
Right.
Marion Roper, who's a Yale-educated, out of Davidson basketball-playing, handsome Paragon.
Yeah.
He's got it all. He's great-looking. He's immensely smart, and he's number 6 in his class at Yale. And he came home to Falls, which is 6,000 people, to take care of the town for reasons that are not quite clear to anybody, but people to say they worship him. They
do.
And with good reason. I mean, he runs past a child's birthday party. 6-year-old twins have just drowned. He pulls them out of the water and breathes air into them, and we watch them, spit up the river and breathe in the air, and he revives them, and they remain characters for the rest of the book.
He doesn't save a child's life. He simultaneously saves two children's lives while everybody's watching.
Exactly. I mean, it's you know how much fun it is to write a good drowning?
No.
I'm loving it.
Drowning. Huh?
Water. I almost drowned when I was 5 as a child, and my father saved me. And for me, the ultimate dramatic act is that. But it was fascinating to try to imagine the secondary and tertiary levels of this heroic kind of weather vane figure in the middle of a little village.
Right. The people, they aren't fakes. They aren't hypocrites. I mean, it isn't like that. It's that, in essence, somehow they're not what they seem or even what they imagine themselves to be.
No, it's a great reading of the piece, and I think all of us carry around this undischarged identity that we've never allowed ourselves. You know, my father's happiest years were in World War II because he got out of Rocky Mount, North Carolina. He didn't have to be in the family business. He was with a lot of crazy, fascinating people from the Yonkers and the Wild West, and he remembered that experience. Of course, he lived with tremendous admiration and fun.
Did he return to Rocky Mount?
He did. He came right back home.
One of the things that any reader is going to notice about Falls, North Carolina, is there are people who stay, and then there are people who come back, and then there's the great mob, people who grow up and leave. And the variations on that theme play in all the fiction.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time.
Oh my goodness, we're just getting warmed up. Good. Thank you for reading so carefully and lovingly. I really appreciate it.
You're working on it. You're about to put out a book of collected stories?
That's right. I have about 20 either stories that are either new or have been in magazines, but have never been between covers. One of the stories is called My Heart is a Snake Farm, and I think I'm going to call the book that. And it will be 20 stories, but considerable stories. A big, fat, beautiful book.
All right. But not 110-page stories.
No.
Otherwise it would be a 2,200-page
that's
book.
too heavy to lift. And then I'm also working on a kind of companion piece for Oldest Living Confederate Widow called The Erotic History of a Southern Baptist Church. It's 100 years in the life of a little country church. And by keeping track of the preachers and the congregation, I'm telling American history for a century.
And since these books are not going to appear 13 or 15 years in the future, they're going to start appearing next year, I will read them and I will do my best to sit down and talk with you again. Thank you. I'd love to
continue the conversation. Thank you so much, Don.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
To order this season of Bookmark on DVD, call 1-800-463-8825. Additional information can be found on our website at www.alabamatv.org.